Hey, everybody. Hey,
One
Facebook
more quick
Live.
thing.
Yeah. Hey, Facebook Live. We are live and we're here with Jackie Corcoran. We're going to jump in. We've got a number of guests here this evening for you, or this morning, depending on the time of day. It looks so wonderful to have some daylight out there. Jackie, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm feeling really good. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Well, good. If you are part of Jackie's tribe, her friends, fans, even family, and you want to help her increase the impact of her talk, all you have to do is be like the creepy kid from that horror movie, The Shining. Take your finger over the share button. We are in a constant war with Facebook against their algorithm. And this is a way that you can share and increase the impact of Jackie's talk, as well as Maya, as well as Sarah, as well as all of the other amazing guests that we have for you tonight. And I would encourage you to do that. Jackie, any questions for me before we get started here?
Not yet.
All right. Well, we'll just jump in here in, let's see here. Actually, if you could give me a 5 count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
We're looking good. We're sounding good. And we are live in 3, 2, 1. We are live with Jackie Corcoran. Jackie, are you ready to talk?
I am ready to talk.
Jackie Corcoran's mission is to empower her clients to make the lifestyle changes that they seek in order to become their best and healthiest version of themselves. As a holistic health coach, Jackie helps busy, driven people strengthen their mindset and bolster their self-esteem. Jackie Corcoran, welcome to the talk.
Thank you, Nathan. Good to be here.
Well, your talk is called Resolution 2040, and it's a kind of a future-oriented talk because you imagine the time in the year 2040 when the United States is no longer number 28 in health. And I love how you identify the key to the amount of money that we throw at healthcare versus the results that we get as a society. It's really because of our relationship to time and our scarcity-based mentality with which we approach health and the amount of time that we make for our health. Jackie, please take us behind the talk.
I would love to. You really did a great synopsis of the talk. And in the writing of the talk, what I learned, that's a TEDx talk. That talk was really created thanks to a group of people. And so I would write the first draft, and then they would get back to me and say something like, well, what does it mean to be healthy? And that would make me really have to think, well, that is a different thing for a lot of people. And so it sent me down this really a road of investigation of what does health really mean and what's really keeping us from it. And as a health coach, the number one thing that I always hear is, I am so busy, I don't have the time. And the truth is, we do lead really full lives. And it is so easy to go to a drive-through, get inexpensive, hot, salty, fatty, sweet food, and get on with the day. And eventually, that accumulates into a lot of bad things. And, the ramifications of that are incredible. But, and time, I had 7 minutes to do that talk. And time was just one of the pieces that I think really have led us to this not such great state of health in our country. Another really big one that I wanted to talk about, and perhaps this is for a future talk, is this, well, actually 2 things. The feeling of guilt that we have in putting our health first. And we don't even know where we got that. I mean, so many people, if you say, well, where did that guilt come from? They'll say, I don't know, but it's really real. And I feel like if I do this healthy thing for myself, then I am neglecting my work, I'm neglecting my family, when in reality, if we are taking better care of our health, we are better at serving our families, we are better at serving, our clients or whomever we work for. And so the question is, and I actually got this question from a book and I pondered it for a long time, is it a moral obligation to take care of our own health? And I think it is. And then the third piece is that as Americans, we have this kind of staunch, pull up your bootstraps and we're, solo kind of people and you just got to get the job done, when in reality, that doesn't work for anybody. I mean, there might be the one lone cowboy who rides off happily into the sunset every day, but even he needs to make some connections, some heartfelt, real connections. So I think that there is a lot of that feeling of, I should be.
Well, looks like we just had a drop. We just lost Jackie, everybody. Hopefully she will be back. Here she is. She's back already. We'll have her back up to the beginning of that sentence. Jackie, welcome back, but I don't have video. Are you there? Jackie, I don't see any video. Oh my. There she is. There's video.
Hi.
All
I got
right.
booted into the lobby.
Yeah. We had a little radio silence. So here we're going to jump right back in. My Talk Ninja can edit these things perfectly fine. So Jackie, you mentioned the sense of guilt that is still out there for many people, and you mentioned the lifestyle, the fast food lifestyle that we have. I know some of the people that I follow, they've explained it very well. Like when you're on a plane and they're doing their safety preparations, what we're ordered to do is to instead of putting our neighbor's air mask on first and checking out your neighbor, they say, no, get your own air mask, put that thing on first, and then check your neighbor, make sure everybody else is okay after you're okay and taking care of yourself. And I think that there's a growing awareness of the need of self-care. If we're not taking care of ourselves, if we're not doing the hard work of leading ourselves, doing things that we don't want to do in the moment for the sake of a better future, that we actually go from being able to be an asset to society and help other people to a major potential liability. So there's more understanding and awareness of that. Tell me a little bit about the kind of work that you've been doing with corporations to just help, I imagine, executives, CEOs, managers, department heads. What kind of things do you do, and what do you do to maybe get past the resistance that you might encounter? Or set me straight if there's never any resistance.
I love that question. There's always resistance. And the reason people come to me is because they've been trying and there's some missing piece that they can't see. And why isn't it lasting? Why is this not sustainable? And so one of the things I love to do, if you are the CEO, if you are a high school student, is there is a method that I use to uncover people's hidden blocks, their fears, their subconscious fears. And they seem so crazy and irrational, but they're really real. If we are wanting to be better communicators, let's say, because that's going to have put us into a healthier relationship or help us communicate better with our coworkers, we might think, well, then I have to actually be kind of vulnerable. Well, yeah, that might be good. So what are your fears around being vulnerable? And then we kind of go through a series of very short questions. And we might find that if I allow myself to be vulnerable, I'll get kicked out of the tribe. People will see me for a person they don't like. They will misunderstand me. They'll use my words against me. I mean, the list goes on. And so then we can look at those fears and say, well, no wonder you're afraid of being vulnerable. Or no wonder you're afraid of putting your self-care first. That makes perfect sense now. Now let's actually test those fears out in a really safe way. And so, regardless of who, and I've done this just, with people within corporate talks where we're in a big group as well. And it doesn't get as intimate, but they still get the gist of what we're up to.
Well, we're bringing up the issue of corporate culture, and I think we have a situation where you have the market leader, and they have the best culture, and they read Brene Brown and listen to her TED talk on vulnerability, and they embrace it, and even maybe model some of that so it becomes a little safer. But the number two runner up, the number three, and all the way down the chain, it might not be that safe to really share. So how do you as a coach really walk that tightrope between acknowledging kind of the realities of the world and making incremental baby step progress with people?
We choose one thing at a time. And that is another reason that people really need coaches, because they want to do it all and they want to do it perfectly and they want to get it done in a hot second. And when they don't see results, then it just doesn't work, and on to the next thing. So I really help them take that down to a bite-sized baby piece of, okay, how can we test this? And then we'll do some brainstorming, and then we'll come up with, okay, so here's how you're going to test. And let's say it's a conversation where you are having to be vulnerable. Who's a person in your office who you can safely practice this with, and maybe even have this discussion prior to? And so we kind of do it that way so that they're not really throwing themselves into the fire, and in a way that's very measurable, so that we can say, well, how did that go? How did that feel? And then eventually, honestly, what happens is they find that 99% of the time, the fears are unfounded. And in fact, the opposite is true. They have deeper connections. There's more respect. There's more love, because people, as Brene Brown talks about, they want to see us be vulnerable and real, like we all are, right?
Well, we've been enjoying this conversation with Jackie Corcoran. Her talk is called Resolution 2040, and we're about to pivot over to UTalk Universe, because we are about to enter the Blitz round in just a moment, where we're going to talk with Jackie about the preparation and performance of her talk. And we're back with the Blitz round. It's time to ask Jackie Corcoran a series of either-or questions related to the preparation and performance of her recent talk. Are you ready, Jackie?
I am ready.
First question, were you invited to speak, or did you apply?
I applied.
How did that go
for
you?
the second year in a row. I applied 2 years prior. This is for Bozeman TEDx. They said no. I was in a mastermind group. My mastermind friend 2 years later said, hey, TEDx, they're taking applications. And I said, I do not need to be humiliated again and feel rejected. Thank you very much. Talk about vulnerability. And she said, oh, be quiet. You have a thing. You want to talk about this thing of the country becoming the healthiest country in the world. And then I applied, and it was horrifying. It was so scary.
Well, this is great, because it illustrates the work that you're doing, that you said in the last session. And then I love this, vulnerable and baby stepping and having somebody else coaching you. My question is, what changed from the first application to the second application 2 years later?
The first application was really more about self-love, and it wasn't hitting the mark for what they were looking for, and maybe felt a little too fuzzy.
Yeah. Well, and Montana's a pretty tough place, so that, that may or may not, like you said, hit the mark. I know with what we're talking about in the Get Accepted course, this is so important, because you don't get the feedback, you don't get the response, you don't get any. This isn't American Idol, where they hand you a microphone and you get rejected, and then you can mouth off back at the judge panel. You don't get to do that. That's reality TV. This is real life. So I love, congratulations for your persistence and landing that.
Hey Nathan, real quick, Montana is a very tough state, and I now am a TEDx speaking coach for Bozeman and Big Sky. And the 2018 TEDx Bozeman, I was the speaking coach of a guy named Micah Fink, who is a former Navy SEAL. Who has an organization, a nonprofit called Heroes and Horses, where he takes vets out into the forest for 30 days at a time. He is as tough as they come, for sure.
Oh, I bet. Beautiful country out there as well. I've been close. I've never been to Montana. per se. Here's my next question. Are you a memorizer, an improviser, or a blender?
For that particular talk, I was 100% a memorizer, and that was a mistake on my part. You know, the saying, not saying, but the fight or the
Fight, flight or
mechanism.
freeze. I've heard there's a third option, which is to freeze. Yeah.
That's right. And it's not uncommon for speakers. And that's what happens to me when I get really nervous and in my head, I freeze. And so I froze in that, and there's some beautiful editing. So it's probably not easy for you to know. My mouth was so dry. My lips were sticking to my teeth, and I couldn't stop thinking about that. So all of a sudden it was like this little evil fairy came down from the theater and went boop and just popped all of the words out of my head. And I just stood there like, wow, it's pitch black in here. I got nothing. And if I had a few slides, even though it was a short talk, I could have used a few strategically placed slides to keep me on track.
Well, I mean, the fight, flight, freeze thing is absolutely huge. Do you, as a coach, do you advise people to blend? Do you advise them to improvise? I mean, when you're on the other end, you want people to be highly structured, as well as in the moment enough to be able to deliver it. But usually when we're coaching people, we err on the side of structure. So how have you evolved, or at least what do you do when you're working with other people?
Right now, my coaching style for TEDx specifically is hyperstructure, because it's a real limited time and people have a lot of stories to share. And so what we do is we cultivate this speech, and we get each sentence down to this beautiful little gem that they can elaborate on for speeches to come. But every sentence that they say is intentional.
This is the cut for time question, Jackie. What was the most painful part of your talk that you had to cut out?
Really, it was that I couldn't talk about the fact that this kind of independent, cowboy riding off into the sunset has such a negative impact on our health, as well as feeling like that we feel guilt around putting our own health first. I think those two things are so important, but I just didn't have the time.
Absolutely. And some things have to go. Fortunately, the overall impact of your talk universe, I couldn't tell that there was any issue with that. Great editing, but kudos to Jackie for obviously pausing and then restarting and finding some way to hydrate. Did they have water there for you for that purpose? Or was this so tough in Montana that they didn't have the water on the side for the speakers?
It's that tough.
It's tough. It's tough. If you're listening to this, then you're an organizer or you're a member of a volunteer team. Please, please, please just implement that extra water bottle or whatever you have so that people can hydrate. It's going to happen. It's the easiest thing that you can do as a leader and as a team member to keep the talks going and to put people at ease. Last question. What's a tip, tool, or technique that helped you?
A friend of mine from Toastmasters, Debbie Jameson, said before I did a pachakacha, 20 slides, 20 seconds, I did that prior to the TEDx talk. And she said, you have to do your talk at least 100 times before we'll talk. From actually either saying it from memory into a microphone or just out loud or videoing myself or even listening back to it when I was driving. But I had a little tally sheet and I hit my 100 mark.
Awesome. Well, we've been enjoying our conversation with Jackie Corcoran. Her talk is called Resolution 2040. And if you want to find out more information about Jackie, you can go to corcoranhealth.com. And we're also going to have a link to her talk on our show notes page at bethetalk.com, as well as a link to corcoranhealth.com where you can connect with Jackie. And in just a moment, we'll be right back for the final word of advice. And we're back with Jackie Corcoran. It is time for the final word of advice.
You want me to give a final word of advice?
I do.
Okay. Final word of advice is to prioritize your own health, please. Whatever that means for you. If it's meal planning, if it's self-care, taking a bath at the end of the day, if it's getting to please prioritize your health.
Can you go back and repeat the second half of that sentence? Because we just had a weird little internet slowdown.
Yeah. The number one thing that we can do to become the healthiest country in the world by 2040 is to prioritize our health and notice if there's guilt around it and release that guilt, knowing that we are actually doing a huge service to our family and our friends and our work by putting our health and well-being first.
Well, Jackie Corcoran, thank you so much for coming on the talk today and sharing your wisdom with Talk Universe.
Thank you, Nathan.
All right, that's a wrap. Now we are still Facebook Living, so what a great job. And let's share this to help Jackie help make America healthy again here. No allusion to any midterm elections or anything like that. Not signaling anything, just trying to make a little innocent joke. But now everybody hates me that saw this. So anyway, Jackie, any advice for Maja here? I'm going to bring Maja on. And Jackie, you are our newest Talk alumni here. So we're going to let you give your valued advice to Maja here, as she's going on next.
Is Maja here?
Yeah.
I can hear you. And
Hi,
I can
Maja.
see you. Hi.
Hi. Advice, just have fun.
Have fun. You heard it. All right.
That I know how to do, so I'll be good.
Excellent. Well, Jackie, thanks so much. You're welcome to stick around. We've got a few more interviews, and whatever you need to do is perfectly fine. And for all of you that are watching now, as I escort Jackie over to the green room here, which we just did, and then Maja and I are going to swap places, and I'm actually going to walk Maja back to the green room. I like to interview on the left side. Those of you that are watching, you know that. And I'm on the right side again. So we're going to do a little. All right. We are back. Here we are. Maja, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Very well. If you can pull your laptop towards you a little bit, then we're going to be on kind of equal standing here. I don't know if it's adjustable or not.
Is that better?
That's a little bit better. Yeah.
You want more, or are you good?
Yeah, a little bit more is good, because when you kind of lean back, then you shrink. And as I told Jackie, I'm terrified when I interview ladies for Be the Talk. I want to be on equal optics. Okay, in this day and age, because we're all equal and it's all good. And that's kind of the way that we are here.
So let's see. We're 5 seconds into the show. We're already in the hashtag Me Too.
Oh, well, no, I kind of, I just, we talk about it, and it always comes up. And what a great society that we live in, where where men are treating women with more respect, and when things are found out, they need to be reckoned with, and it's a little unpleasant, for everybody on the front end or on the back end. And I'm just glad that my parents, tried to teach me, respect and and all that good upbringing is a good thing. So anyway,
they must have done really good, considering that you're so concerned that we have. Good job, mommy and daddy.
Yeah, they're awesome. So anyway, I have a very good friend from a long time ago in college who actually grew up in Cumberland, Maryland. And I was just so dazzled when I heard that part at about the 9.5-minute mark in your talk.
Wow.
And I sent him the link, and, it's just a great place. So I was we don't always hear those stories in the United States, especially when there is a caravan of thousands of people coming towards us, that we actually do try to take care of people who are true refugees, and that is your story here. And I'm not trying to politicize it or make you out to be more legitimate than anybody else. It's just your story, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more about it, Maja.
Sure, I'm looking forward to sharing it.
Well, and here is the situation. So we are on Facebook Live. We do have the podcast recorder right here, and then when I hit that button, then we're really super live in there. I want to make sure I have a couple of things right. And the first thing that I want to make sure that I have right is your bio here, and it's Kazazic. Am I saying it correctly? Kazazic? Yeah. Maja Kazazic.
Yeah.
All right. Maja Kazazic is an athlete, entrepreneur, and international keynote speaker. She speaks to the power of resilience, positivity, and surviving and thriving despite all odds. And the emphasis I will put on the all. Really, really powerful. Genocide and happiness, the power of you. That was a pretty good bio, but I didn't have the recorder going. So if you can give me a 5 count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Me?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right. We're about even here. And we'll just jump right into it unless you have any questions for me.
No, unless you want me to go onto my page and try to share it on my page and it's live. But other than that, I'm good.
Yeah, you know what? That's actually a really good idea.
I tried to do it earlier, but I didn't see it. I couldn't find it. So I thought, well.
Oh, yeah. And this is the way that this little plug-in works. And I'm glad you mentioned that. And we're doing great on time, Maja. So I'm going to look in here. I'm going to do some little surgery. There we are.
If you want to message me the link, I'd be happy to share it real quick.
Well, the way that it works is I kind of need to tag you on my end. I may or may not actually be able to do this. I'm trying to do it right now. Come on, let me edit the post. There we go. Let's see if it makes it live. It may not. Oh, there it is. Oh, because we are friends in advance, it looks like that worked. Yeah.
Good.
We just tagged you.
So
we just tagged you. That's awesome. All right. Yeah, so I'll give you a minute to blast that out. Now, as Maja is doing this, man, you have such an engaged community. And I'm wanting to share your video just because it's so inspiring, and it's really an honor to speak to somebody who has survived some of the things that Maja has. And I have as many of you know, I have actually both my brothers-in-law have immigrated from Asia or Europe, and under difficult circumstances. So I understand a little bit, even though I'm like as privileged as they get. I understand a little bit of some of the barriers and obstacles and whatnot, and just love hearing these stories and appreciating them. And if you are watching this right now and are part of Maja's pretty extensive fan club, all you need to do to help her extend the impact of her message is wiggle your finger over the share button. That defeats the power of the evil Facebook algorithm, which seeks to minimize Maja's message and my message and everybody's message, your message. This is a way we can fight back organically and authentically and completely ethically, I might add. Just share the interview. And I can't wait for this. So Maja, how are you doing on your end?
I'm doing really well. I just shared the live link, so we're good to go.
All right. Well, big welcome to all of Maja's friends, fans, and even family. You can leave us a comment. We're going to get started here in a moment, so we don't stop everything to respond to that. But you can comment during or after the event, and Maja's going to be checking this out. I'll be checking it out. Great way to be able to connect. So any final questions for me, Maja?
Nope, I'm good. We can get started.
We're going to do it in 3, 2. We are live with Maja Kazazic. Maja, are you ready to talk?
I am ready, Nathan. Let's do it.
Maja Kazazic is an athlete, entrepreneur, and international keynote speaker. She speaks to the power of resilience, positivity, and surviving and thriving despite all odds. Maja Kazazic, welcome to the talk.
Thank you so much, Nathan. I'm so happy to be here.
Your talk is called Genocide and Happiness, The Power of You. This is one of those talks that is, it's inspiring, it is deep, it is painful at times, and it's a heart gripper, and it's really your story. Just to kind of summarize and bring everybody up so that we can go a little deeper than we otherwise would have. Literally, you're an athlete and you were playing with your friends and growing up in Yugoslavia in the middle of a crisis and a war, and a bomb basically exploded right in your circle. You survived. Not all of you survived, but most of you survived. And you described going to the hospital, not having anesthesia, having all kinds of surgical things happen, and then just overcoming. And for that, you have all of our respect and awe. And the amazing thing about the talk, after all of that, is you quote Dickens. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. And it's so amazing because you brought your humanity forth, and you said, I don't know how something so horrible, how I got through it, and how it could be also the best of times as well as the worst of times. And that just gave me hope to watch that, even though I haven't had, and the other people that watch your talk, we haven't had that kind of level of trauma, but you gave us such hope to be able to walk forward in our own journey. So Maja, thank you for doing that. Please take us behind the talk.
You're welcome. Well, the talk was generally, I'm a speaker, and that's what I do professionally. And generally when I do talks, that is not the topic. I usually speak to associations and conferences and businesses. So it's usually going to be leadership, sales, empowering employees and things like that. But when I decided to do a TED Talk, I wanted it to be something different, and I wanted to be truly me. And it took me a good 2-3 weeks to actually come up with the topic and the subject for it. And what I realized, that I think the biggest thing about me and the most unique thing that I can offer to this world is that this lesson that I learned, that no matter where you are, you can be happy, because the power to be happy is within you, and you cannot look for it outside anywhere.
Well, and it reminds me of the classic book, Man's Search for Meaning, of the Nazi camp, and the all of that, and being held hostage in there, and then realizing we do have the power to choose our attitude and our response. Absolutely huge. Now we're skipping over a few things. I mean, you came to America. You founded a software company after the wonderful people of Cumberland, Maryland, about as far west in Maryland as you can get. They embraced you. They donated all kinds of medical services, surgeons, hospitals, doctors, all kinds of great people in that town. And then you were able, from that place, to go to college, start your own software firm. It sounds like you were absolutely crushing that. And now you're flying around giving amazing speeches to corporate audiences and audiences of all kinds. So I'd love to kind of have you fill in some of those gaps as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of gaps there. I mean, it's not, for those of you who think that it's an overnight thing, it's certainly not. Is it easy? No. But if you have the positive attitude and desire to do something, you can certainly achieve it, no matter what it is. And in my life journey, after my injury, as you may know, is I was evacuated to Cumberland, Maryland, where I was embraced by this beautiful small town and its people. And I truly saw what it meant to be in America. It was a true small American town with 20,000 people that just truly loved me and took care of me and gave me basically wings to fly. From there, after I graduated college, the way that I paid for college and my education was making websites. It all started from making websites for my doctors, and ended up making websites to pay for my school. And once I graduated college, I basically had 5-6 years of experience making websites. So I decided I'd test my luck in a IT world, which was great. I landed a really nice job, worked for a wonderful company. And from there, what I realized was that I could do the same thing, but just for more money on my own, and truly reach the American dream. I
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
love the freedom of having my own, company and being able to travel and do things in my own time. And basically started the company. And my first client I got within a month was a $150,000 retainer, a yearly retainer, which kind of set me off really nicely, which is basically unheard of, usually it doesn't happen that well, but when things align correctly, I guess when you get your ducks in a row, that it did happen. And then from there, it just kind of grew, and I was really thrilled about it.
Talk Universe, like Maja says, that sounds a little too good to be true. However, I've noticed this. I watch documentaries. I kind of have my radar up anytime that I find somebody or learn in their story that they came from an area where maybe it was a little economically difficult, maybe it was war torn, maybe there just weren't freedoms, or it was totalitarian, or there was some kind of violence going on. When people are able to come to America, they fight in a different way. They persist. They don't give up. That was interesting. They do all kinds of things that other people don't always do, and they have a tenacity that comes from knowing that the rest of the world isn't always as fair as it can be in other areas of the world, even though we've got a lot of stuff that we need to work on here in the fairness department. I'd love for you, Maja, to speak to that. I mean, what is your perspective when you came to this country? Yeah, it's not a perfect country. We have an urban side, we have a rural side, we have all kinds of different dynamics. But what did you see? What was really paramount in your experience?
Well, I'll tell you what, Nathan. When I left Bosnia, when they came to rescue me, I had 20 minutes to decide if I wanted to go. Basically, a lady showed up with an interpreter, and she said, I got a permission to rescue 3 injured children. You're one of the candidates. If you go, we're leaving in 20 minutes. So 20 minutes later, I do not speak English. I don't know where I'm going, who I'm going with, when or if I'll be back, right? I find myself on a stretcher leaving, and with me, I only had 3 things. I had a T-shirt that I was wearing at a time, a teddy bear that I would bite on for pain, and a rock.
Yeah, you had no anesthesia at all. So you're making the decision of your life for the rest of your life, no anesthesia, and as clear-headed as you can be under the circumstances.
Absolutely. So when I left, I had those 3 things, and when I came to United States, it was, and I think a lot of immigrants feel like that. They left something behind to start something new. It doesn't matter what you have. I had those 3 things. They're useless in every sense of word, other than having emotional connection right now. But when you start from a clean slate and you leave all that baggage behind, you get a different perspective, and you start thinking and looking outside the box, and you start seeing things. And I think what I see a lot in the United States is that a lot of people are struggling because you're stuck in this cycle of going and going and going and working, and you can't step back for a moment and look at the whole picture and make a decision. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. So I think that's why immigrants, when they come to this country, it's almost like they work different way and the harder, but they are in different position. They are getting a brand new start, and they're giving it everything they got, not just enough to get a paycheck. And that, I think, is the difference.
Yeah. Well, what would you say? And I want to get, particularly political or anything like that. But you mentioned noticing so many of us stuck in a cycle. There is a lot of injustice. There's a lot of imperfection. But what would you say to someone who's maybe in that spot and they see a lot of the injustice, but they don't quite see the opportunity, and maybe they can't in the same way, except by listening to someone like you? Do you notice that happening? And when that comes up in maybe one of your seminars, what do you say?
I have to be honest with you. The amount of negativity I've seen in the last couple of years has been draining on me. I strive on positivity.
Mm.
and good things. No matter what's happening to me, I'm happy. As I mentioned in my TED talk, the room that I was in, even though I was such a horrible, dire situation, the room I was in, it was called the happy room because I'm constantly happy. So what I would say to those people, exactly the rule that I live by, and that is positivity is a matter of perspective, and perspective is a matter of choice. And we choose to be happy and positive about any situation. And that applies to our lives and our situation that we're in, that we might be stuck on and things like that.
Talk Universe, it all comes back to having the power to choose. There's been books written in the worst of situations. That's what we come up with. We have the power to choose. And Maja, how awesome for you to be driven by positivity and happiness. I forgot about that whole piece in your talk about the happy room. It must have been I mean, it's the room of happiness, or it's the room of unbelievable physical and emotional pain. And you chose to make it the room of happiness. Did you name the room, or is that what the room was named?
No, the room was named that because we laughed so much. We joked so much. I mean, it was just a lot of fun. And what ended up happening was, because we were laughing so much, that all the medical staff, because they were so mentally and emotionally exhausted from treating all the injured and dead, they would start just coming to the room to just get some relief, just kind of laugh a little bit and just not be so sad and not see such misery. And that's what we would do. We would joke all the time, play jokes on each other. I mean, there were 6, 7 injured people that had nothing else better to do.
You played jokes on each other? What kinds of jokes would you play on each other in an injured room?
So, for example, the guy that worked on my legs, he was a dentist prior to war. So, anybody that had any type of medical treatment was trained to do whatever they could possibly do. So in my case, I chose this guy to work on my legs because he was short and cute. And I thought if he was short and cute, maybe he won't hurt so much, right? So
make it worth it, a little more worth it, maybe.
Yeah, I was 16. It's weird how you make decisions at that age. But he felt so horrible, and I can understand that now at this point, that he felt so horrible always coming, because he would have to cut my flesh off every single day, every morning, every night, and it would last for like a couple hours. So that is basically
no painkillers.
No painkillers.
You had no painkillers in Bosnia.
No, nothing. I just had a little teddy bear that I would bite on and scream into, and that was it. And so he felt horrible about that. So what I would do is I would literally cut out the arms out of a paper, and I would put the strings on him, and I would attach it to my residual limb that's left over, and I would make it work just so I can make him laugh a little bit so he doesn't feel so bad. It's sort of a dark humor, but that's how it was. And we'd laugh, and it was just a lot of funny situations. There was one guy that was 2 beds down from me, and he was always so concerned about everything that was happening to me. So he always mimicked. He thought that everything that happened to me was the right way to do it. So everything I did, he literally copied me. So we started making fun of him because he was copying everything I was doing. There was another guy who lost his leg, and the funny thing was he was looking at all these people walking, and he's staring at everybody's legs, and he's like, God, there's so many legs, and all I need is one of them. It's just crazy black humor when you got nothing else, or dark humor. We call it black humor, but I think in the U.S. it's called dark humor.
We want to be super sensitive, but I mean, this is so interesting to really talk about this, because sometimes I wonder, the Civil War in the United States, when they didn't have much technology, and how did people endure it? And now I'm talking to you. You endured it, and you put a face on it. You chose to make it the happy room instead of the misery room or anything else. And really, really powerful stuff. So we've been talking to Maja Kazazic. Her talk is called Genocide and Happiness: The Power of You, indeed. And we're going to be back with Maja in just a moment with the Blitz Round. And we're back. It's time for the Blitz Round with Maja Kazazic. I'm going to ask Maja a series of either-or questions related to the preparation and performance of her recent talk. Maja, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
All right. Were you invited to speak or did you apply?
I had applied. I had no intention of speaking at TED, and somebody mentioned, one of my agents mentioned, and she said, you should do it. And I applied just to see what the application looks like. I had no idea that I was going to be accepted. And I completely forgotten about it. And a few months later, I was watching actually a video on TEDx, and I saw an email that came in that I was accepted to speak. And I was like, whoa, where, when, what?
Wow. So you put out one shot out there and then forgot about it and it came back. Well, that was a good talk to accept. that was a good one. And when you have a story, backstory like Maja's and doing the amazing impact, I'm very surprised that you even had to apply. And so I'm so glad you did, because most of the rest of us also have to apply. It's good to hear about that. Maja, are you a memorizer, an improviser, or a blender?
Generally, I am an improviser because I customize. It's like, I guess it would be a combo, because when I do speeches, which is what I do for a living, I will customize each of my speech for my target audience that's particularly that day in the audience. However, for the TED Talk, I had to really memorize it. I've seen enough TED Talks to know better than just to wing it, right? So
yeah, don't want to wing it. What was, this is the cut for time. What was the most painful part of your talk that you had to cut out?
You know, it was hard to, really cut out my story so long, but most painful thing for me to cut out had to be cutting out the part about my mother and what happened when I was injured and how she reacted to the entire situation, because I think that paints a whole different picture for the audience about that moment and emotions that we're going through. But again, for cut for time, TED does not care.
No, you got to cut it down.
Yeah,
you got to cut it down. It's painful. It's ruthless. It's brutal. However, it's all relative, and in your situation, it's a different kind of trimming back and whatnot. Man, a powerful story. All the way through. My final question for you: what was the most unexpected, strange, or just plain weird thing that happened before or during your talk?
Strange before or during a talk. I don't know if this is strange or not, but it was definitely one of my favorite things that happened, and it was completely unexpected, totally unplanned. We went back to the green room behind the stage, and we were hanging out with the organizers. Well, unbeknownst to me, one of the organizers had a small baby, few months old. And for whatever reason, her husband was at work and the baby was there. And the baby's name was Maja. And she was getting a little fussy, so I ended up babysitting. And it was my
double
favorite.
Duty.
Exactly. I went to a different green room, but it was all pitch black, and I, put her to sleep, and I put little lullabies on, and I remember thinking, I'm like, oh my God, this is insanity. I'm literally waiting to get on a TED Talk. And because she was trying to sleep, and she was a little tiny, like, I don't know, maybe 4 months old baby named Maja, and all the couches in the green room are leather. So I took off my shirt and I laid it down on the couch. So here I am in my bra and an undershirt in a green room with this baby waiting to go on to have my TED Talk. But that was definitely unexpected.
I'm glad the story ends there and that the baby didn't regurgitate and leave you really stuck in a strange situation. That I've never heard of. I've never heard of that as is.
Honestly, I'm always prepared, and I always had a change of clothes actually in my backpack. So that was just without a given. I always have that extra, because you just never know when you're going to take that fry and that ketchup just goes down.
Absolutely. Well, Talk Universe, that's an excellent tip. Have a change of wardrobe in advance in case you have any young children that you need to take care of and until you can give it back to their rightful parents right there. We've been enjoying this conversation with Maja Kazazic. Her talk is called Genocide and Happiness, The Power of You. You can find out more about her and her talk at our website, the show notes page at bethetalk.com. We'll have a link to her talk as well as her website. You can go to majakazazic.com. I'm going to spell that MajaKazazic. Maja Kazazic is Kazazic.com. And we'll be back with Maja Kazazic and her final word of advice in just a moment. And we're back with Maja Kazazic. It's time for the final word of advice.
So the one thing that I could tell anyone in all the audience is something that I've already mentioned. It's easy for all of us to be positive when things are going pretty good, when we have our cup of coffee and we're checking our Facebook page and we click like on a hang in there kitty poster. But the hard thing for us to do is to be positive when shit hits the fan, when things get hard. And in order for us to do that, you have to remember that you have the power to choose, because positivity is a matter of perspective, and perspective is a matter of choice, and that is your choice.
We have the power to choose. Talk Universe. Maja Kazazic, thank you so much for coming on the talk today and sharing your wisdom and your experience with Talk Universe.
Anytime, Nathan.
All right. Hey, that was tremendous. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We got a heart from Leah. We've got a earlier thank you from Ryan. Thank you so much for sharing your story and inspiration. And I can't say enough and echo that enough. And please go ahead and share this. If this is speaking to you, looks like we got a mic drop. I like the emojis here. This is great. Mic drop. Bam. So take your finger, wiggle it over the share button, and let's blast this out. And I'd also like to, in just a moment, we're going to welcome Sarah Hernholm to the talk here. Sarah, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, doing great. We have an all-star lineup here this evening. Maja, you are, congratulations, our newest talk alumni. So any advice that you have for Sarah about dealing with me?
Sarah, he's very sweet. Just relax and it'll all go very smoothly. You can tell he's done this before. We can definitely tell. So all you got to do is relax and be yourself.
I can do that.
Good.
Well, and yeah, we've done this for a little while. We started doing this 7 days a week back in February, actually. So we are right at or possibly over the 300 guest mark right now. So
Wow.
Today was the day that we went over that threshold. So I can't do it without my amazing guests. Thank you so much. And Maja, we're going to escort you back to the green room. And thank you so very much for all of it. Actually, we're going to do the whole green room with all of us because I we switch sides. I like to interview on the left side. Now, Sarah, you don't know what the heck I'm talking about because I don't think that you can see the split screen. But
I can't do the split screen, but I see you in a big frame.
Yeah. Well, there's a split screen going on. Sarah's friends, fans, family. Same thing with you. Let's wiggle the fingers. Let's get this moving. Let's get this going. Let's overcome the Facebook algorithm and help Sarah share her talk. And Sarah, if you can give me a 5 count as I'm looking at our audio levels right now.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, we're looking pretty good, which is really great. Let me practice your bio so that I don't I don't say anything or do anything silly. And looks like the website is 11tipsfordoingwit.com.
Yeah, that's mine. The company's is doingwit.org. Yes.
Doingwit.org. Okay. Is that your company or is that
Mine.
doingwit.org? All right.
Mhm.
Let's actually doingwit.org. All right. Getting all the little last minute things here. And the book is 11 tips. Okay.
Yeah, 11 tips for doing wit. Yes.
All right. So, and the bio that you sent me, Sarah Hernholm is an educator, entrepreneur, speaker, teen advocate, and committed to doing whatever it takes to make the world a better place. Hashtag do wit. Now,
Yeah.
I'm starting to get hungry because now this may be minutia Americana to you, Sarah, but if you've ever been to Philadelphia and if you're not a vegan, you might have heard about our wonderful cheesesteaks. And when when you order wit, that means you want onions on your cheesesteak, and then you follow it up with whiz if you want cheese whiz, or prove if you want provolone, or mozz if you want mozzarella. So that is triggering me because I live right outside of Philadelphia right now, and actually it's so bad. There's like a over franchised cheesesteak place at the local Acme, and now I'm wanting to go down the street to the Acme, to the Tony Luke's, which isn't as good as the real thing in South Philly, and get one. So anyway,
well, I wouldn't be offended if you wanted to Postmates.
I'm a little triggered. I'm a little triggered. All right, somebody, who is this? Leah, what is that emoji? I can't see what kind of an emoji that is because I don't have my glasses on. I'm assuming that's okay. I might trigger all the vegans out there that are triggered by cheesesteaks and all of that stuff. When I have, I've had a couple of clean meat guests on the talk, and I do not talk about the Philly cheesesteak with the clean meat guests.
Not a good idea.
Do not do that. Yeah. All right, folks. It's been a fun day. It looks like Sarah might be our final guest for the evening, so I'm taking a little bit of extra humor liberties. And I think we're up to about 8 or 9 for the day. So this is about the threshold where I start getting a little loopy. Okay, but it's all good. Okay. So any questions for me as we get back on target here, Sarah?
No, I mean, I'm ready. I'm excited.
All right. Well, you should be. I'm excited to have you on.
So thank you.
Yeah, this is going to rock. All right. We are live in 3, 2. We are live with Sarah Hernholm. Sarah, are you ready to talk?
I'm ready to talk.
Sarah Hernholm is an educator, entrepreneur, speaker, teen advocate, and committed to doing whatever it takes to make the world a better place. Her hashtag is #DoWit. Sarah Hernholm, welcome to the talk.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for making the time to have me.
So your talk is called 11 Tips for Doing Wit.
You mean the talk that I've given?
The talk that you've given. Actually, I'm noticing now that for whatever reason, I don't have that on my notes. So just tell me what that is and all. What was?
So I've had the honor of doing 3 TEDx talks. So I've had one.
That's why we don't have it. Okay, so you 3 times TEDx speaker. Give us the lowdown.
I've had so one of them is on unique expression, bringing your unique, your authentic self-expression to the world. Another one is on the power of full circle moments. And the other one was on placing commas instead of periods.
And I saw the one from victim to victor. That's the one.
That's a full circle. That's the full circle one. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, the notes that I have are from victim to victor. Okay. And I love the linguistic switch that you do. You say, hey, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening? No, you switch the 2 to a 4. Why is this happening for me? And no matter what happened to you, what kind of, petty to serious thing that happened in junior high or high school, or you got called a narc at one point, which was one of the worst things in the 80s and 90s that one could be told in school, a narc. And it wasn't even true for you, but you had the attitude, hey, why is this happening for me? What could possibly good happen from being called a narc?
Well, let's be really honest here. That was something that I was able to process much later in life. As a 14-year-old at boarding school being called a name that wasn't true, I didn't have the emotional intelligence at the time to say, oh, I wonder why this is happening for me. No, I was pretty devastated by that level of bullying. It's just that what I've realized in life is the older you get, it doesn't mean that the bullying stops. It just manifests itself differently. The self-doubt doesn't go away when you hit 30 years old. I mean, all these kind of things that when you're a young person, you feel like eventually it'll all make sense and everything will just come together and these great little puzzle pieces will create this beautiful picture. I just don't think that's what life really is. I think it can be very messy and it doesn't always fit. But if you choose to reframe how you're processing what's happening, I feel like that's what was the biggest thing for me that made the biggest impact on me, was just the reframing of, instead of wallowing and why is this happening to me, when I even switch the language to why is this happening for me, my body even opens up more and my mind opens up more. And I like to feel powerful. I would rather feel powerful than weak. And so I look, and plus I'm inspiring the next generation of leaders in the work that I do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reframe. And, but that doesn't, these talks come from a lot of pain. You can't really inspire people unless you've kind of gone through some things. So
yeah, for sure. Well, and I love that, I mean, we're talking about empowerment here, and we need to learn how to coach ourselves and reframe and choose to be present, choose to be empowered, and choose to baby step forward and get past all of our little stuff that we all have. I love, I took this note from you. You say that worry gives the illusion of accomplishment and getting things done when all you're really doing is just burning your energy and time. And I just thought that was just so classic for all of us, especially task-focused people that like to get stuff done.
Mm-hmm. I also think of the expression that worrying is ingratitude in advance. So you're already being
ingratitude in advance.
Yeah, ingratitude in advance.
Oh,
so
that's
you're
great.
Already feeling ungrateful, like that things aren't going to work out and that things aren't really going to be okay. Again, these are all things I've had to teach myself and learn. And I think that there's some people where the worrying gene they don't really have it as much. And then there's some of us that it comes in extra hot and it can be very distracting. And it's just, I had one of my talks, the first talk I did, I talked about my tendency to ruminate and the tips that I've used to try to stop, to get out of that. So I think everybody has something. I think what we could do better at as humans is to remind each other that you're not alone in that. And that if you do feel this way, there are some tips and tools that you can use, and that nobody has it figured out.
Well, Talk Universe, if you'll let me indulge for a moment, I need to let Sarah know that she's not alone in being a ruminator. And I want to get a tip about how she stopped ruminating, because I think I might just suffer for the same thing. Maybe you do too.
Well, I think, and I'll go back to this. If you hang out with me enough, you'll see that this is my default. Gratitude is my default. Ruminating is, again, a form of like worry and concern. And I really try to combat that with gratitude. I also remind myself, I do a call to action of what's the next best thing you could do right now? What's the one step you could take? Not like trying to figure out the whole thing, but just one action step.
And by ruminate, do you mean overthinking? Do you mean kind of pinwheeling in your mind? Because I definitely do that. I've had people tell me I tend to do that.
I mean, I just like all of a sudden will be down this like rabbit hole. And the thing that will happen is it'll start happening when I'm even in conversation with somebody about something totally different. My mind starts worrying about something else. So I'm not even present to where I want to be. And so I have to have really quick tips to get myself back in. And it come like when I'm in those situations and it's happening in real time with somebody that I'm in conversation with, I will start asking them questions about themselves, right? Like trying to get myself back into the present moment. So I think, it's all okay, but it's helpful to have quick tips to help you be your best self.
Sarah, tell me about the work that you do. I believe it's with youth and empowerment and mentoring and that kind of thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but tell us a little bit more about the kind of work that you're doing, how you got started serving in that way.
So the name of the company is WIT, Whatever It Takes. And we're an organization that focuses on developing emotional intelligence and entrepreneurship and community engagement within teenagers. And we do that in a couple different ways. We do that by providing a college credit course they can take in high school where they can actually learn how to launch a business. They actually do launch a business in high school while earning college credit. And then we also provide one-day hackathons around the country where they can come for one day, activate that entrepreneurial mindset, come up with solutions to real problems, and then pitch those solutions to city officials and entrepreneurs and leaders.
I love it. Well, and that's very similar to what do we have? We had a startup weekend at the local business incubator. Sounds like a very similar thing, only you start them younger and teach them that instead of just memorizing facts, they need to hit the street with some possible solutions, find out what sticks, validate, and then get people to actually spend a little bit of money perhaps, and then scale the thing out. Is that basically the idea?
I want people to start realizing that they can be part of the solution and to be solution oriented, not problem focused. And I feel like with teenagers, they just don't have a lot of spaces where they get to use their voice freely. So what we say is, okay, you're complaining about some stuff. Cool. So let's do something about it. And then I just feel very strongly that when teens have access to the rooms and the platforms in the quote real world, they are more plugged into their life. School is not that fabulous in the United States. We could do a lot better in our school system. And until it gets better, we will keep running programming that allows them to learn in the way of applying skills in the real world, because that's how people learn the most. I am a former teacher, so I speak that gives me some street cred.
Yeah, well, and I can't help but to bring in episode 150, Dr. Michael Hines, who's a school superintendent, and he's really kind of leading a charge right now to help the whole child and the whole teenager with social intelligence, emotional intelligence, physical intelligence, and not teach for the test anymore. So he's taken a really bold stance about that. What are your thoughts about the emotional, the social skills that we may be losing, as a former teacher and who's still teaching and working in a less traditional way, maybe more effective way? What are your thoughts about all the underdeveloped parts that we're missing as we're teaching for tests all over the place?
Well, I think we're setting our youth up to fail. And it frustrates me because I don't understand how adults don't realize that. I feel like they're just choosing to be ignorant, because there's no way that as a educated human being, adult, that you could ever possibly think that teaching a group of people to be able to take a test is the way to help them be successful in the real world. And then adults get really grumpy that what's coming into the workforce are people that don't have a lot of hustle, don't have a lot of grit, don't have a lot of fortitude, and aren't comfortable with failing. It's like, well, why would they be comfortable with failing? You told them that failing was wrong. You told
not
them
allowed to get under a 90 on that standardized test.
Yeah. And that you taught them that taking risks could result in you not getting into the college that's supposed to be helping you have the perfect life. Because I mean, it so blows my mind that adults are still preaching that getting into the right school will give you a great life. We all know that has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, well, especially after, our generation is kind of the tail end of, the internet, and all of this stuff is here, and we're kind of not prepared. And then we're having our own kids and perpetuating the whole, I don't know if it's political. I don't know if it's just employee thinking or the conditioning of the Industrial Revolution from 150 years ago. I don't know if it's nostalgia, but we gotta do something. We need to look at this.
We do better. We know better, so we should do better. There's there are no statistics that show that 3 hours of homework is beneficial, that rote testing results in really well-developed, emotionally intelligent humans. Like, there's no data. So just stop.
Pretty crazy. We are enjoying our conversation, pretty lively conversation with Sarah Hernholm. Her talk, the one that we were talking about, is From Victim to Victor. And we've been just really enjoying all this. We have more to come. And we're going to pivot over to you in a moment here, Talk Universe, to talk about the preparation and performance of her three recent talks in the Blitz Round. And we're back. It's time for the Blitz Round with three-time TEDx speaker Sarah Hernholm. Sarah, I'm going to ask you a series of either-or questions related to the prep and performance of your three recent TEDx talks. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Were you invited to speak, or did you apply, or both?
Invited for all.
Invited. Awesome. Okay. Are you a memorizer, improviser, or blender?
Blender.
How does that work for you?
Well, I find that I was a theater major in college, so I definitely know how to memorize lines. But I think it's also really important to not come off rote and fully memorized. And I think it's really important to to be present in the moment when you're talking, because things happen. I mean, I've had some interesting things happen when I've given these talks. I blend, but I think for the most part, I really value the platform of TED, and TED really doesn't want you to be just improvising on the fly. They want something really solid and well thought out. So honoring that for that platform, I blend, but I would probably lean more towards memorized.
Yeah. And I love talking with people with theater experience, because when you say blend, you really mean memorized in the moment, and not stodgy and calculated, but it's really closer to what the rest of us would call, memorized or memorized. So yeah. It's really interesting, because when an actor or performing artist says blended, a lot of times looks more like memorized, and you have that respect, that healthy respect for what either the desire of the composer, if you're a performing artist, or the person who was the screenwriter or the script writer, or in our case the curators and the organizers of the event that were invited to be a part of. So my next question: what was one of the most unexpected, strange, or just plain weird thing that ever happened to you on the TEDx stage?
Well, I've got two. So one would be, there was a tech issue during one of my talks.
Always a tech issue, yeah.
There were some slides behind me, and then the slides didn't go, or they skipped ahead too many. And because I'm a very in the moment present speaker, I work very hard to be that way. I just said, well, let's just get it back on track, and we'll jump back in and we'll make it work. I didn't pretend that it wasn't happening, because that actually makes it more awkward for the audience. But it's online. Does. It's online for people to see, and it's just better to own it in the moment and get it back on track. And because
they didn't edit that piece out.
No, I think it's still because it's part of the time.
They didn't edit that piece out. Hey, folks, we're gonna just wait for the slides to catch up. They didn't edit that out. They didn't
edit that out. There's probably some real life interest in that. The other thing that happened, one of the talks that I gave, I was able to give. It's the one that you saw in Texas. That was in Texas. And I hung out in the green room with the teenagers because it was a teen-focused event. And I really love hanging out with teenagers. That's the focus of the work that I do. And I met a teen who actually helped me bring my company to Austin. So now we have a pretty strong presence in Austin, Texas. And that's the magic of what can happen in a green room. And it's the magic of what can happen when you get outside yourself. There's a big temptation. I see this a lot when I go to speaking engagements and I'm hired to speak. The speakers are very self-focused. I think that comes from a sense of just being very nervous, but that's very egocentric. So a great way to get comfortable before you go out on stage or when you're at an event that you're speaking at is to just really be more focused on expressing than impressing. And I enjoyed being backstage and just being really grateful to the teens that I put on the event. And then as a result, wonderful things happened for my business. Meanwhile, other adults were sitting in the corner kind of freaked out, and that's fine. Everybody gets their own process, but you don't want to miss out. You don't want to miss out on the moment. because it's a really cool thing to give these talks.
Talk Universe, one of the great things about getting accepted is, all of the things that Sarah mentioned. But one of the things that often I forget to mention is it's great networking with the other people who are also selected to apply to give a talk, and you can really connect with people. Now, some people, are kind of in the zone. And you leave them alone. You don't get in their space, and other people are, usually the more seasoned professional speakers who are a little bit more used to it. There's a time and a place, and you can really connect with them and continue and extend the conversation. And it's just really a wonderful thing. It's a benefit that is often very much overlooked. Sarah, what was the most painful part for you to cut out of the talk that we're talking about, or even other talks as well?
Okay, so I don't think I have an answer for that, but I'm going to reframe it a little bit because I think this will be helpful to the listeners. Is that in all of my talks that I've given, I write the first version out. And the most painful part is, I don't even think it's painful. It's like this, I know it's going to make me better, but I have two people that I share my talks with. And it's the moment that I send it, because I know it's going to get torn apart. I know it is. And they're going to call me out on all my stuff, on these little tactics that I have in my talking. And they're going to they're going to keep inviting me to be more and more authentic in my writing. And it always feels just a little like you hit send and you're just like, okay.
Oh, it's coming. It's coming.
And then you're kind of refreshing. And then you have to realize everybody has a whole other life going on. It's not about you all the time. Even though you're like, didn't you get my TED draft? Don't you want to read it right this second? And they're like, I have a life. But it's my brother, Matthew, and my friend, Annabelle. And I know obviously my brother, because he's my brother, and my friend Annabelle, we met when I was working in film and television, and we've stayed very good friends. But I send it to both of them, all the speeches that I give and that are TED related. And they just love me so much that they edit it so much.
Oh, the little red pen comes out and everything else. No, so really what I hear, you answer the question brilliantly, because you have such a respect for the process that this is part of your process, and you submit it to other people knowing that it's going to get cut and it's going to be painful. And you do that. And those of us that are less prepared, less aware of the process, less aware of what it's like to actually go out in real time, be blinded by the light, and maybe have our lines, maybe not, and whatnot. That's where the revision happens. So you've got such a preemptive revision cycle that that's where the pain happens.
It's because I really, really respect the audience.
Yeah.
I really want to bring value to the audience, and I don't want it to be about me. And sometimes in your first drafts, it's a lot about you, and it's a lot about your agenda and kind of what you want people to know about you or your businesses. And it's really great to have people come back and say, but no one cares.
So my last question for you, I don't ask this to a lot of people, but I love that you mention, it's not about us. And for a lot of I watch a lot of talks, you watch a lot of talks. It's real easy for the talk to be about us, even after we got accepted, and for us to go up there and kind of take that trust and still make it a little bit more about us through just plain ignorance that you see a lot of times, or just egocentrism. So how do we not do this? Because you've done this 3 times and you're guarding against that with your first draft with other people. How else do you guard against that, and where's that line?
Well, for sure, you shouldn't be talking about your business. I mean, I can't get over how many people are advertising a book or
it's pretty amazing.
A company. I'm just like, it's supposed to be about ideas worth spreading, and it's not supposed to be about your book worth getting on the New York Times.
It amazes me that a lot of those get approved.
Me too.
Because that's always the threat. I mean, I got the threat, it's like, you probably got the threat, hey, if you make this, they won't approve it. And a lot of times it does slip through, and it shouldn't.
It does. And that feels very salesy. And I don't watch those talks. And I've even been at events speaking at events where those talks have been allowed, and it's just really off-putting to me. I feel like there's plenty of spaces in the speaking circuit that we can do that, but I just feel like we should really respect the platform of TED in all of its ways, like the TEDx Salon, the TEDx, TED itself. I just think, I think if you have to have you get to have a freedom around your words, that it's supposed to be what helps. If your mission is, I want to bring value to people, and people are reading your drafts and they're saying that something's not valuable, I recommend not being defensive about it, because you can go write a blog post about the things that you want to talk about, or you can go do a speech somewhere else about that. But if it's an idea worth spreading and it's a concept worth spreading, people want to, in the audience, in the TEDx audience, they want to feel like they're getting something from you that's making them feel less alone and making them feel valued and making them feel heard. And if you talk about yourself the whole time, they can't make the connections as easily as if when you talk about concepts and ideas and you share your own heart and you're vulnerable. I mean, I talk more about, if you listened to all three of my talks, you'd be like, wow, she kind of has some issues. Well, yeah, I mean, I also have some success too, but I have worked through a lot of things. And I find that the more we feel less alone, the better we are as human beings. And I'm willing to share some embarrassing things because it'll hopefully make somebody else not feel so alone.
Well, we've been enjoying this conversation, this Blitz round with Sarah Hernholm. She is the author of the book, 11 Tips for Doing Wit, which is about to be released in 2019. And her talk is called From Victim to Victor. If you go to our show notes page, bethetalk.com, we will have a link where you can watch that one. We'll have a link to her other ones as well in there. And we'll have a link to her website, which is called doingwit.org, doingwit, WIT.org. And we'll be back with Sarah Hernholm in just a moment for the final word of advice. And we're back with Sarah Hernholm. It is time for the final word of advice.
So I just going to give you, okay. My advice would be, well, I'm going to just kind of compile a few things. Some of the things that I live by. One would be to do whatever it takes. And by that, I mean doing whatever it takes to make the world a better place, and start with you first. Because when you do the work on yourself, you are able to put the oxygen mask on first, and then you're able to serve other people. A lot of times people kind of go out, especially women, and they just want to serve and serve and give and give and give, and they're not taking care of themselves. And so I say there's no prize for being a martyr. There's no prize for being run down and too busy. So take care of yourself first so that you can serve people on an even greater scale. And one of the only quote that I have in my office is, there's always enough time to do the right thing. And that comes from my dad. And he had to tell me that a lot growing up. So that's probably why it stuck with me. And now it guides a lot of what I do. We don't cut corners at WIT. I don't cut corners in my life because there's always enough time to do the right thing.
Sarah Hernholm, thank you so much for carving out time to share your wisdom with Talk Universe.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, that is a wrap. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh,
that was really great.
Yeah, well, hey, we're going to go offline in just a moment. But again, if you're part of Sarah's fan club or tribe or friends or whatever, wiggle your finger over the share button. Help her extend the impact of her talk. Help us defeat the algorithm and use the power of ethical virality to spread all of this. I love that we were able to bring in my friend Dr. Michael Hines in here. I'm going to be able to meet him next week. I'm going to, I guess, humble brag on this. I get to meet Sir Ken next week. Michael is hosting him in Long Island. He's a superintendent in Long Island, and I'm about 100 miles away. So I'm going to zip on out there. And it's going to be huge. And I just thought it's just such a great segue, because there are so many forward-thinking people that are kind of adjunct to or formerly in or both the educational arena, that this stuff is just added ammunition for the amazing work that he's doing as well as you're doing. And And that's something that I just love to be able to do is bring people together and bring these talks and these interviews and these backstories
Yeah,
together.
I love it.
Yeah,
you do a great job.
Thank you so much. Any final words for everybody watching before we go offline?
Stop playing small. If you're playing small in any area of your life, you're not doing anybody any favors. You've got unique gifts and talents. The world needs them. So if you're playing small, just stop.
All right. Sarah Hernholm, everybody, thanks for joining